Hello, Movie Crusaders, and welcome to my latest episode. My name is Sean Waskrug, and today we're going to be reviewing the final film in the Halloween franchise, Halloween Ends. Now, before we jump into that review, a little backstory on the first two films. I have not been the biggest fan of this trilogy. I think Halloween 2018 was fine in what it was trying to do, but I think it was... there were subplots that went nowhere. I think that there was some stuff left on the editing room floor that really made the film feel disjointed. There was some cringy-ass dialogue that was unnecessarily needed. And there were certain characters that did certain things that just were straight up stupid. And while I appreciated what it was, and it is one of the better Halloween films, because most of the Halloween movies aren't that good, it definitely was not as good as everyone claimed it to be. Then we had Halloween Kills, which... to me, is one of the worst films I have ever seen in the Halloween franchise. It was one of my worst films of the year. I despise that movie. That movie is everything you could do wrong. Outside of the initial trailer shot that you saw where Michael Myers kills all the firefighters, that's the only good thing about that movie. Everything about that film was wrong. And if you want to hear my actual review for Halloween Kills, feel free to check it out on the channel. It's the only film that I reviewed not in the office, because immediately after I watched it, I just had to shoot it right away, and I shot it in my living room instead of in the office, because I was that pissed off after watching that film. So feel free to check the review out for that on my channel. So coming into Halloween Ends, I didn't have the highest of expectations because of how bad Halloween Kills was, but I had to see how this franchise was going to end. And the way Halloween Ends goes, is it better than Halloween Kills? Yes. That's not a high bar to jump over. Halloween Kills was horseshit. But this movie is still just a mess of a film. There is some good ideas. There's some good thoughts in this film. There's good gore. I will say this. When we actually get Michael doing Michael things, the gore level in this is great. But the problem is that they're doing a lot of things in the final film of a trilogy that should have been done in the previous film. There's at least like 5 different subplot or stories happening in this movie, which once again, you don't do that in the final film of a trilogy. You do that in the middle part to build it up to have a finishing act going into the final film. You don't start new things in the final film, because then you're rushing to get all the other stuff going, and then you leave some things off and all that kind of stuff. I know people who are watching this review probably like, Sean, I know how the trilogy works, but some people don't. And the problem with this is you've got the main problem by doing this, and you think they would have learned their lesson in Halloween Kills. One of the main problems with Halloween Kills is that you took Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie and you completely sidelined her into a hospital bed for the entire fucking film. And that's what everyone wants to see. Everyone wants to see Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie fight Michael. And you put her in a hospital bed for the entire film, and you basically kind of reluctantly said, this is what you wanted? Fuck that. You ain't getting that. And what they did this time around is they said, cool, you got Laurie, and I'll touch on that in a second, but now you're not going to get Michael. We're gonna take Michael out of the picture for most of this film, and the movie's going to be about Haddonfield and what has happened to Haddonfield. And what has happened to Haddonfield since the events of Halloween Kills is that it's basically turned into the town of Derry from Chapter 1, Chapter 2. That Michael's evil has now reached the citizens of Haddonfield, and now Haddonfield is no longer this peaceful place, and now it's a bunch of mean-spirited people and people who are just out to kill and suicide and all this. Once again, concept is there, not utilized the way it's supposed to be, could have been built in on the second film, but wasn't executed properly, and now it just seems like a tack-on. Michael, once again, where we left his character at, which at the end of Halloween Kills was him killing Judy Greer, a.k.a. Laurie's daughter, and disappearing. With police surrounding him, he disappeared, which once again, Halloween Kills, that movie. Where we get him in Halloween Ends, it doesn't make any sense. They don't explain why he's where he's at. They don't explain why he is the way he is. They don't do anything to make any sense of why Michael is the way he is. And that's kind of where we're just left with that. Laurie, Jamie Lee Curtis's character, she is nowhere near the character that she is in the first two films. She's playing an entirely different character in Halloween Ends, and it does not work. It isn't until the last 10 minutes of Halloween Ends that we actually finally get to see Laurie be Laurie. She's playing a character that is like trying to be the joke, trying to be funny, saying dialogue that just is cringy and doesn't work. There's a line of dialogue in the film about her talking to Allison about finding a man that makes her want to rip her clothes off, and there's more to that I can't say on here. And you just sit there going, who the fuck is this character? This is not Laurie. This is not, like, this is Jamie Lee Curtis, but this is not the character that we've known for two films. They completely rewrote her character, and not in a good way. And then you also have Allison, who I liked, who now has this kind of darker, almost killer-esque kind of vibe to her, which, once again, I didn't hate that. I actually thought that concept worked really well. But it was not built in the previous film. It's just thrown into this. And then you have this other subplot of, well, is she this way because Michael killed her mom? Or is she just, is it because the evil of Haddonfield has, like, sinked its teeth into her? We don't know. And then we also get the introduction to a new character, Corey, played by Rohan Campbell, which this is the one character that I actually enjoyed, and the one character that I actually did buy into the storyline element that we got with him in this movie. He's a character during the events of, I believe it was Halloween Kills, something incredibly bad happened to him. Like, oh crap, your life's screwed now. And it was effective, a little on the nose, a little unbelievable in certain respects, but it was done enough visually to go, oh shit. And you're kind of following his path, and he gets kind of forced into the Strode storyline, and thus also gets forced into the main plot of the film. And what happens with this character, I think for the most part works. Could it have been written way better than what it was? Absolutely. But once again, his character, while building up to something really, really good, also ends incredibly pointless and stupid, to the point where it makes you feel like, great, you had me buying into this, and then you ended it this way. It kind of makes you feel like, what the hell was the point? There's also a subplot as well with Corey and Allison that I'm not going to touch into right now, that just, once again, has good building blocks. But, once again, you don't throw that into the third film that's supposed to be finalizing everything. You do that in another film to build into it. It's just a lot of messy stuff. But ultimately, this movie is a jumbled mess of good ideas, but should not have been thrown into a third film. And also, once again, badly written dialogue. There's these high school kids that are thrown into the movie to, I guess, be the evil of Haddonfield. And what I mean by that is that they're just douchebag teenagers who act like assholes. And their dialogue is, first off, they just look so ridiculously, like, stupid. And their dialogue's bad, and they just kind of come in and they just derail the movie. I think they come in like at 3 or 4 parts in the film, and they completely just take the movie to a screeching halt. And they're so horribly, like, just written and delivering of their lines, and just performance-wise is so bad that when they inevitably meet the Michael of the film, it's like, okay, good, they're no longer going to be on camera anymore. Fantastic. But it inevitably, the movie honestly forgets what they've been selling us throughout this whole thing, which was the final battle between Laurie and Michael. And we're about 3/4 of the way through, and then we finally realize, oh fuck, we've been promising this, and we haven't been building up to it at all. So let's rush and get to that part, and then we're going to give you that part. And then we get the final battle, and it's fine. It's not as good as Halloween 2018, but we get that battle, and it's like, okay, cool, you gave it to us, but the problem is that for the last hour, 20, hour, 30 minutes, you basically kind of neutered that whole concept, and you kind of ruined that whole concept. That by the time we actually get to the final battle, we're just like, yeah, okay, I mean, we're getting it, but this isn't the Michael that we've been following for 2 films, or for however many films you want to go all the way back to the very, very first Halloween. And this isn't the Laurie that we've been following for the last 2 films, or the rest of the Halloween films. These are just 2 other characters. and they don't work that way. They don't fit well anymore. And once again, it's the story of this whole franchise. There is no solid, well thought out plan to this trilogy. There was no solid, well plan. Each movie was just doing their own thing, and they didn't have any connective tissue. And if they did, it was lost on the script, or it was lost on the editing room floor. It's poorly paced. It's poorly disjointed. The storylines don't flesh themselves out. The characters change too drastically through all the films. Badly written dialogue, cringy written delivery of said dialogue. The gore works. When Michael is able to be Michael, it's great. When Michael's not on screen, the movie itself, or the trilogy itself, falls apart immensely bad. And actually, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to go ahead. This was all non-spoiler. I'm going to now go into a spoiler part of this, because there's just some things I need to say that I cannot say in a non-spoiler. Overall, guys, if you're a fan of the Halloween franchise, obviously you need to finish the trilogy. Go ahead and watch it. If you've not watched a single Halloween film and you think, should I watch the Halloween trilogy? Fuck no. This is a horrible Halloween trilogy. Go back, watch Halloween, the first one, and then watch Halloween H2O, which to me is the definitive best sequel to the Halloween franchise, and then just stop there. Watch those two films and be done with it. Do not watch this trilogy. This is a jumbled up crapshoot of 3 films that just has a lot of decent ideas but aren't well thought out and aren't utilized to their fullest potential. So for me, I'm going to give Halloween Ends a 54%. Like I said, it's better than Kills, but it's still not that good. The first Halloween 2018 is the better one, but even that's still not that great of a movie. Now that I got the non-spoiler aspect out of the way, let's jump into some spoiler stuff. So if you guys have not seen Halloween Ends and you plan to see Halloween Ends, stop now, come back after you've watched it so you can hear my spoiler thoughts on this. First things first, like I said, the Laurie character, she's completely changed, and they basically are having her write her manifesto, which, okay, that's fine. I'm totally okay with that. That's nothing wrong with that. But it's her trying to be like this happy-go-lucky and smiling and all this kind of crap. And it's like, no. If anything, you should be more dark and brooding because you just lost your daughter to Michael. Your whole goal in life was to kill Michael and to make sure Michael doesn't kill anyone else, and you failed at that. And yet you're talking about to Allison, go find a man so you can rip your shirt off and show your boobs and all that kind of stuff. Like, what the fuck character is this? It's so badly written, and Jamie Lee Curtis is doing her best, but almost you can kind of tell, like, in the quiet moments where she's going, wow, they really fucked my character over. Then you have Michael. So, granted, Michael's a man, and Michael got killed like 18 different times in Halloween Kills, and he still kept getting up and fighting. But then, like I said, the last time we saw him in Halloween Kills, he's killing Judy Greer's character in his room, and then he just disappears. Even though there's cops and ambulances and fire trucks and everything surrounding the house, he somehow escapes. We then jump ahead, and he's, like, hiding in the sewers, and he's brittle, old, he barely can move. He's basically kind of like a leper. There's no explanations to why his character is like this. Now, they do say in the newspaper article that they tore down Michael's house and they demolished it. Now, if they were able to explain that that was the essence of his power, and because the house got destroyed, that's why Michael's weak, fantastic. That explains so much, because the main story plot that they kept trying to go through on Kills is that he's not after Laurie, is that he's trying to just get back home. He's just trying to get back to his window, because that's where, like, the gate of evil is. And by destroying that effectively takes the power away from Michael. Had they explained that way, that would have made more sense. That would have made logical sense to why Michael is hiding in the sewers and weak, and why he hasn't been seen in, like, 3 or 4 years since Halloween Kills. But they don't do any of that. He's just in the sewer, basically being a hobo, hiding. And then he has the power to grab a guy, Corey in this instance, and basically look him in the eyes, thus transferring the evil, or at least passing the evil on to Corey, effectively turning him into new Michael. That concept, I didn't hate that concept. It doesn't work because they haven't built that story up to have it make sense, but giving Corey the essence of becoming the new Michael and allowing it to basically kind of be this thing works, but it would make more sense if Corey killed Michael, thus taking the power of ownership of the Michael Myers-ness into himself, thus making him this unstoppable killing machine. Instead, it becomes a buddy serial killer thing where he's the young apprentice and like basically like Michael is the the old savant serial killer who can't kill as well anymore, so Corey's doing all the dirty work, but Michael's still super strong and Michael can still do Michael things, but when he's around Corey he's weak and frail and not able to do anything, and it makes no fucking sense. Had Corey killed Michael and became Michael Myers, that would have made a more sound theory, but you couldn't do that because you had to have Michael and Laurie have their final standoff. So instead, you have Michael acting kind of like a old bitch the whole movie until the very end where he decides, okay, I'm Michael again, and now I'm gonna have this fight. You just once again, once we got to the final battle, Laurie is not Laurie anymore, and Michael's not Michael anymore. So why am I caring about this final battle? You don't, and that is the worst thing you could have done for this trilogy, because that was the main selling point to Halloween 2018, was that Laurie Strode is back and Michael's back and they're gonna have this big gigantic battle, and they did in the first film, and in the second film you kept them separate so that way they could have the final battle in the third film, and then you did these characters so that by the time you finally got this fight, no one gave a shit anymore. Then you got the Allison character. First things first, why she was just immediately bonered or horny for Corey, I could not tell you. The first moment she sees Corey, she is like a dog in heat. She is so forcefully turned on by him that he is not giving off any vibes that he's interested, and she is basically forcing the narrative of, we're gonna be together, we're gonna hook up, we're gonna be this thing. And there's, once again, no reasoning behind it besides the fact of, you're damaged, I'm damaged, let's work together. Very lazy writing. Okay, whatever, I'll allow it. But then once again, we get this darker version of Allison, maybe because of her trauma from losing her mom. Once again, could have been built better in the second film. But it almost kind of turns this almost into like, is she gonna help Corey, like, be this like killer, like a Bonnie and Clyde situation? If they went that route, okay, that actually works. What if Allison, because of Laurie failing to kill Michael, actually becomes evil with Corey and they try to kill Laurie or kill Laurie? And then that pushes the franchise into a new thing. They could have done that. I could have been on board with that. But they didn't want to fully turn Allison evil. They just wanted to make her feel like a bad girl who loves a bad guy, even though Corey's not a bad guy until he turns evil. It's like, it was a good concept, but they didn't want to fully give into it. So they basically did this halfway deal. And it just, once again, not fleshed out, not well done. And it just is, once again, there's good ideas, there's good thoughts here, but ultimately they just were too chicken to do it, or the studio was like, no, we gotta have Michael in this, and you need to rewrite this. They could have done that too, because even then, the end of the Corey character didn't amount to anything. He's dressed as Michael. He tries to kill Laurie. Okay, that's fine. Laurie beats him up, shoots him, and then instead of him fighting back, he kills himself, so that way Allison thinks that Laurie killed Corey, thus ending their relationship. Now, had Allison gone crazy and then tried to kill Laurie, that would have made more sense. Instead, Allison basically runs away like, a obviously disgruntled, upset, girlfriend who just lost her boyfriend, but the characters didn't, the story doesn't help the characters, and the story's endpoints don't make a whole lot of sense. Because basically what they wanted to do is they wanted to get Corey out of the picture so Michael can come back in and have the final battle. And it's like, you can't build the story for Corey to take over the mantle of Michael for 75% of the film, and then basically go, oh shit, we forgot we're supposed to have Laurie and Michael have their final battle. Let's just end Corey and have him kill himself and do this, so that way we can get to Michael. It's like, what the fuck was the point of the first 75% of this film? Like I said, there is no thorough plot line for this trilogy. There's no thorough plot line to this film as well. It's just a lot of ideas. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. And the ones that did work, they cut off at the knees because they promised a final battle that inevitably didn't matter at the end of it because you fucked up both characters before we even got to that final end. And then she kills Michael, effectively kills Michael, and then the whole town does this whole, like, marching his body once again to the dumpster area, which is an active crime scene, mind you, because Corey kills like the 4 teenagers in this area. They don't give a shit. But the whole town effectively goes through this area where there are 5 dead people at. Apparently they cleaned them up really fucking fast and got all those dead bodies out of the way really quick, or the townspeople saw 5 dead people and they didn't give a shit anymore. And then they all collectively, like, pick up Michael and have Laurie throw him into, like, the crusher thing or whatever you want to call it. And all I kept thinking of was, Laurie, throw yourself into. Like, because that's the only thing that makes sense, is that you kill yourself with Michael, thus ending everything. And thus ending this horrible franchise for what it was. But ultimately, there's probably a whole lot more I could come up with. This movie gives me a headache. This movie just frustrates me to no end because there's a good movie. There's a good trilogy in here somewhere. But they just, like I said, there's no plan. Like, if you're going to do a trilogy, and you're going to have the same director and writers for this whole trilogy, Kevin Feige this thing. Figure out the whole plan, the whole plot for all 3 movies together as one, and then shoot the first film. Don't just shoot the first movie and go, oh, we'll try this idea, and it didn't work. Okay, we'll try this idea. Okay, that didn't work. Fuck it, we'll just do this. Because that's what it felt like. It felt so disjointed. It felt so unplanned. It felt a lot like the Star Wars trilogy, where the first, episode 7 did its thing, and then episode 8 went completely off track and did their own thing, and then episode 9 was trying to fix the mistakes of episode 8, and then by the time they got it fixed, they ran out of time for episode 9. And that's what Halloween Ends feels like. It's just a jumbled mess of thoughts that were not fleshed out properly and were not utilized properly. And a lot of that is because Halloween Kills just went off the rails and tried to do its own thing, and it failed so badly that Halloween Ends spends most of its time trying to come up with new ideas and new ways to make it interesting, which it works in that way, but then ultimately cuts it off at the knees because they promised a final battle that ultimately, by the end of it, no one gives a shit about. I'm going to stop right there. That's my overall thoughts of Halloween Ends. Like I said, I gave it a 54, which I think is a generous score for Halloween Ends. This trilogy ultimately comes down to just being a complete and utter miss for me. I wanted to like this. I wanted to enjoy it. But ultimately, it's a gigantic disappointment. It's not anything I'd ever go back and rewatch. Maybe I'd go back and rewatch Halloween 2018 if I felt like it. But never would I go back and watch Ends or Kills, because they're both just epic disappointments to the Halloween franchise. Like I said, if you guys want to watch a good Halloween film plus sequel, watch the very, very first Halloween, and then watch Halloween H2O, because that is the true sequel to Halloween. I hope you guys enjoyed this non-spoiler and spoiler review for Halloween Ends. If you guys did, go and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up on the Movie Crusaders. Of course, you have to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. We have reviews out for Rosalind, Smile, Amsterdam, as well as a massive review for 5 films, which are Dead for a Dollar, Luckiest Girl Alive, Mr. Hannigan's Phone, Hellraiser, and The Curse of Bridge Hollow. I know I dropped a lot of videos here in the last day, but I've been sick, as you can hear with my coughing, and I was trying to heal up so I wouldn't keep coughing while doing these reviews, and that's why we dropped all these reviews in one day. We got more reviews coming. Black Adam comes out next week. In 2 weeks, once House of the Dragon ends, Brian, Michaels, and myself will be coming back to do a season wrap-up of She-Hulk, Rings of Power, and House of the Dragon, as well as all other reviews that are coming out now as we head into the fall season. There's so many more movies coming, so be on the lookout for all those. And until next time, in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.